like to be so steeped in culture that it's just oozing out of your pores. I spent a lifetime, albeit only 24 years, really just soaking up my environment. And I thought it'd be really cool to talk about my experience. So my first level of culture is being just an American Generation Y woman. I'm super entitled, parents are upper middle class, highly educated, no glass ceiling I can't shatter. Maybe I've seen a therapist once or twice, or maybe I take prescription sleep aids. You know, you don't think about even being in a relationship where the person you're with doesn't respect your ambition. So that's level number one. Level number two is the fact that I'm a military brat. And we're a really special breed of people. So we watch our parents leave at some point in our young lives, and they go off for months and months at a time. And sometimes when you're a kid, you don't know if your parents come back. And so we watch our parents leave, they're buttoned up, they're professional, they're responsible. And so the family at home is expected to support, and we're also expected to at some point live overseas. So our family took our first overseas assignment in Osan, Korea at Camp Humphreys. And you have two choices. You can live on base and you can take American dollars out of the ATM, you can eat Anthony's Pizza from the PX food court, or you can leave and take a small stipend. And my family did the second. We lived in kind of a ratty apartment with hardwood floors, and we drove this car that had like holes in the bottom of it. We drove it all around Korea. So by the time my dad retired, we were right outside DC, and we lived in Texas, and Pennsylvania, and Hawaii, and Korea. By the time we got in there, I was a 12-year-old with a very odd blend of accents, and no one could tell where this brown girl with half of a southern accent came from. And so essentially, I am a cultural chameleon, not to be confused with the karma chameleon, the teenagers are good at that. But I can generally just reflect whatever I need to with whomever I'm interacting with. Because don't you love to talk to someone who knows where your hometown is, or recognizes that you're from Long Island, or you're from Austin, or you're from SoCal? So another big part that was going through my life when I was a kid was the fact that I was a Seventh-day Adventist. And I went to church schools almost my entire life, and so I throw out things from my religion pretty frequently. And if you're of a major religious denomination, you guys have your own vernacular. And so I'll say things like, oh yeah, I was a Pathfinder, which really means I was basically a Girl Scout. Or I go to church on the Sabbath, which is the Saturday. Or we like to eat haystacks. But some things transcend the Christian denomination. So if you know a family that has a lot of glassware, chances are they're church folk because they go to a lot of potlucks. They probably have their own Wednesday night prayer meetings, and they have their own denominational rock stars. Like Adventists, we have Ben Carson. He's a neurosurgeon. He separates Siamese twins. You're welcome. Alright, so the one thing you don't want to be is a bad Adventist. So sometimes you're out on the town, and I hear someone say the word Sabbath, and I'm like, hey, are you an Adventist? And they're like, yeah, are you an Adventist? And that's the point where you want to hide your pepperoni pizza with extra sausage or your beer, because a lot of Adventists don't drink and we don't eat meat, and that's just something that's important to the culture. It's a key word right there. Alright, so obviously the most part of my culture is the fact that I am brown. I am Sri Lankan brown. And it's okay if you don't know where Sri Lanka is, it's on the next slide. But funnily enough, it's actually not in the map that's set in stone in Coolidge Park. So don't look for it there. Sri Lanka was settled by the Portuguese, and so because of that, a lot of us have family names that hail from Portugal. So my family name is De Silva. But if you meet someone who's Sinhalese and they have a name like so long, if you give them a name tag, you like wrap around their body, like they're old school Sinhalese. So a lot of people are Buddhists, we have a smattering of Islam, we have some Hindus. It's a beautiful country. Go if you get the chance. There was a civil war that lasted a long time. Praise the Lord, it's over. So by the time I was 14, I went to a high school in Maryland, and I was surrounded by Southern Asians for the first time in my life, and I really just discovered my culture. So I would embrace family honor and deference to your elders, and I would tell my mom, just tell me more about what it's like to be Sri Lankan. And so she shared with me the word Udu Budu, which loosely translated means, we don't know your family, therefore we do not like you. And so I was friends with a guy who's from Sri Lanka, and I told my mom, yeah, my friend Rajiv Gomer. And she's like, oh, the Gomer men, they're tall and they're strong, which is important to come from an agricultural country. And our families were so intertwined that at some point, my family allegedly burned down his family's match factory, ironically. So I had delved into my roots so deeply and was so excited about it, but my sister was not. She was like, no thanks, I'm gonna live in this culture that was created by our multiracial family. She didn't go to my high school, she didn't have the same surroundings, so maybe things would have been different. But now as we've grown older, we've kind of come hand in hand with how we view things. So if we see a nice Indian girl or a nice Sri Lankan girl doing something questionable, we say, oh, ayo, or I hope her family doesn't find out, or oh, do her parents know? So good news, we're equally prude. And being a part of our culture technically makes you nice. We'll always say, oh, that nice Sri Lankan girl, that nice Indian girl. And also, something that's really common to hear said is, oh, they come from a good family. So family honor is so important, and the definition of honor to me is for the Lord, or God, or Krishna, or Buddha, whoever he is, do not shame your family. And at some point it becomes a burden, but then as you grow, you're like, hey, my reputation matters professionally or familially. It's very important to defend your honor. But sometimes it's petty. When we were kids, my mom would keep us home sometimes for a couple days in the summertime to give us a break from the sun. Really, it was to lighten our skin. Because girls who have dark skin usually come from a lower class of family. Their families work in the fields, and their marriages aren't as good. Obviously, she wasn't worried about arranging our marriages, but she did want us to be of that higher class. So you can imagine the confusion growing up in a home that was really concerned about ladylike behavior. Lakshmi, oh, that's my given name. Lakshmi, wear your stockings, always wear lipstick. Or dress up when you go to get the mail, cover your head, which really just means wear a scarf when you have a cold. So this is all coming from a woman who wanted us to be ladies, but who, I hate this phrase, but she thought like a man. There were only two ways to get off the island when she was a young woman. A young woman who can't swim or ride a bike. You be a nurse or you be a teacher. She was a nurse, she got off the island, she did really well for herself and her family. And that she has given us is something that's very Rouse family culture, nothing to do with Sri Lanka. So, sometimes I look around the room and there's no one else colored in it. It's just me. And I'm just like, really? Like, no one has a single drop of anything in their blood, or no one speaks another language. And it makes me feel uncomfortable. But then sometimes I look around and I'm like, hey, I'm in a room full of Chattanoogans. It's okay, I'm just like everyone else. But I'm not, and neither are you. We're blends of language and color and spirituality, and it's so beautiful. Thank you.